Welcome to Decentralize TV. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon, the free speech platform. And of course, this show with my co-host, Todd Pittner, he'll be joining us after this interview. This is all about decentralized living. And one of our favorite topics to discuss on this show is, of course, private digital money, because we believe that privacy is a basic human right. And so we are very honored to invite on our guest today, who is one of the leaders, the brains, the inspiration behind a project that I find really inspiring, very amazing from what I've seen so far. But we'll ask him, and I'll ask a few tough questions. We'll see how it goes. But his name is Reuben Yap, and welcome, Reuben, to the show. It's great to have you on.
Glad to glad to be here. It's, thank you for making such it's an awkward time for you, and it's a real pleasure and honor to be on here. Our community was asking, when are you going to get on Mike Adams' show? And I was like, I don't really know him. And then somehow we got connected. So it's a real pleasure and honor to be here. Yeah.
Well, no, the honor's all mine, believe me, because I've watched many, many hours of your videos and your conversations. You just came back from Monero Con, and I noticed people were stopping you in the hallways and filming interviews. So I was watching all those too. And just for the audience to know why I'm not in my studio, I'm filming this late at night, my time, because you, Reuben, you're halfway around the world. Do you talk about what country you're located in?
Yeah, no problem. I'm based in Malaysia. I'm actually based in Borneo, which we're more famous of orangutans and headhunters, the ones that cut off people's heads, not the HR people, but yeah, that's where I'm from and where I am. Yeah.
Okay, great. The last time I was in Malaysia was in the 1990s.
Wow.
And I was in southern Malaysia, right near Singapore, giving network security lectures for what's that?
Was it in Johor?
No, I don't remember the city at this point, but I was touring throughout Southeast Asia, including Hong Kong, and giving talks for a company that is now a very well-known antivirus company, but I don't want to mention their name. But anyway, I was a young communicator then, so I've been to Malaysia, and I've had I met a lot of people there, enjoyed a lot of the food there, and you have a lovely country. So thank you for joining us from Malaysia. It's great.
Thank you.
Well, where do we begin? So your project is called FIRO, F-I-R-O, and it's a privacy coin. So what do you tell people when you need to give them kind of the quick summary of what FIRO is and why it's even worth talking about?
I'm actually a really bad filler. So, but, typically, I'll just say we are a privacy-focused cryptocurrency. We use our own protocol that we developed called Lelantus, and soon moving to Lelantus Spark. And what it does is that, it gets too technical. So
I know we got to keep it like easy to digest. Yeah.
So I think one of the coolest things, even though I wouldn't say it's one of the core values, is the election that we held in 2018, which I would say was one of the biggest real life use cases for our blockchain, where the Thai Democrat Party used us to elect their party leader, and they required a blockchain, and they also required the votes to be there's some form of privacy, right? You can't see who voted for who, right? So our blockchain was used then, and about 127,000 people cast their votes nationwide. And I think that was a real first. That's kind of on the application side, but on the technology side, we, unlike many other projects, we are one of the few people that actually develop our own privacy protocol from scratch. And right now, our research is very, is being used in other privacy cryptocurrencies as well, like Beam's using something called Lelantus Mimblewimble, and Monero's also implementing a lot of our key ideas into their next-gen privacy protocol called Seraphis. So I'm really proud of that, even not just as a cryptocurrency, but as, I guess, a research, as someone contributing to the space. That's what we're all about. So yeah.
So what you said is really critical. I hope people haven't glossed over about that, because what I really respect about you in researching your project, watching your videos, is that you are a collaborative person in this space. You work closely with Monero developers, for example, and you share ideas. Such as you mentioned Seraphis or Lelantus Spark, and I know maybe we'll talk about full membership proofs and concepts like that, and
Nice.
how even Monero is moving off of ring signatures potentially in the future. But these ideas, I think the whole space benefits when we are willing to share and collaborate with each other. And that's one of the reasons I really look forward to speaking with you here. So thank you for doing that, and not being one of those guys that's just trashing every other project except your own.
It's not been easy, like sometimes, even our collaborative efforts have turned to backstabbing. So I've had like personal experience on that. So it takes a conscious effort to try to remain collaborative and like work with like we have to think about it like, what are we here for? Are we here to show our bags, or are we here to, really change, what would be the freedom of money, right? That's how I see it. We're building, I would say, the financial infrastructure that's like going to be really important, especially as CBDCs come online, which they already are, So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that the slogan of our show here, Decentralize TV, the slogan is, quote, "Building the infrastructure of human freedom."
Oh, wow. That's great. Aligns completely then.
Exactly. Because that's what we believe in, and that's what we're doing here, and that's what you're doing. So if people look at FIRO right now, you can download wallets from FIRO.org, which I've done. I've tried all three of the wallets that you have there. And people can, they can acquire FIRO using swaps, Bitcoin swaps and swap sites and what have you, and they can play around with FIRO. But it's so much more than that, because FIRO, what I see as FIRO really pioneering here is some of the very best technological advancements in this space. And because FIRO is, let's face it, smaller than Monero, Monero is like a big ship, and it takes a little longer to turn that ship, to turn the direction, and to get consensus among the developers. And I'm not in any way talking bad about Monero. Monero is an awesomely successful project. It's the #1 privacy coin. But FIRO can be more nimble, right?
Yep. I would say like I guess, as a smaller community, we there's pros and cons, right? Obviously, Monero has a lot of contributors and stuff like that, but it also relies on, that's part of being decentralized, right? It relies on contributors stepping up, and Monero's contribution like ebbs, and there's the ebb and flow, right? Like sometimes there's a lot of contributors going, and sometimes like people are busy with their lives and doing stuff, and that's fine. That's nothing wrong with Monero, right? But for us, I guess we are a smaller, more focused project. And as a result, we can say like, look, we really want to go down this direction. Of course, we get community buy-in, but I think things can happen a lot faster. And I guess maybe can be a bit more consistent about it, because we have, full-time people full-time working on the project, not just like on the side, and they're being paid regularly and that sort of stuff. So there's trade-offs. Yeah.
But that does bring up a question then, how do you fund the developers? Because I think right now, the last time I checked before the show, FIRO was like $1.80 or something like that per coin right now,
right?
Which is, let's say, 1/100th what Monero is per coin, roughly.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe, right? And yet the tech is actually very competitive with Monero. So how do you fund the operation? Or not you, but how does it fund itself?
Right. So some people are very against this. Like basically off the block reward, we take 15% of it, and that sounds like a lot, but if you put it into real terms, especially since there's already been a halving, it's around 16,000 FIRO a month. So if you multiply that's
not that much for R&D.
That's not a lot. So people are like, oh, death tax, you guys are getting rich. I'm like, dude, just do the math. It's 16,000 FIRO. Everyone can say it. there's not a lot of like, none of us are getting rich off it, right? And we may think, well, that's not enough to run research and all that, and that is true. It's not enough, right? So we have some generous donors. Like recently, some people like donated like 100K, 200K. I think total in this past year we received like 300K in donations.
Wow.
So and that was done through something called Magic Fund, which is not run by us. It's run by some. It's a 501c3 in the US. So if you donate to it, it's
Really?
tax deductible. So a couple of people who really support and like what we did, and some of them are like companies that we had given them a second chance in helping FIRO, and they have now taken off, and they were like, hey, look, we like you guys, let's contribute, and it helps my taxes. So that has really helped us. So I would say, although the primary revenue would be from the block reward, like the 15%, we do get substantial donations. And from time to time, there's a separate committee that's not set on by the core teams, elected by the community. And that has a separate fund that they can fund anything. And sometimes if we have like specific things that, hey, we need an additional researcher, we need an additional developer, would the committee fund it? And sometimes they contribute there as well. But I would say as a whole, like I would say we probably have like a 50,000 US dollars per month to run everything, not just development, but everything. So
you have to be very efficient with your decisions of where to spend. And I mean, you've also been, I think your people there, your team, they've been really critical in the mathematics development of, for example, Lelantus Spark, which, as I understand it, is quite a revolutionary change or advancement in what's going to happen. I want to ask you about that. But I mean, you have to hire math people and then people to do proofs and people to try to break the proofs and so on, right? Isn't that part of it?
Yes. Yeah. It's not an easy process. Unlike that's why it takes so much time and development to build a new protocol from scratch. It's not like I'm just implementing that something someone else has already done, or implementing something that's already been fully described. It's actually like coming up with the math, the constructions, and then checking that, forming the security proofs for that, then doing the code, then checking the code and auditing that. So there's many processes. So like, for example, Lelantus Spark, we first announced it in 2021 in August-ish, but we have been already working on it for like 6 months prior to that. Like, we're trying to figure out the math. And then since August 2021 to now, even the protocol has evolved. There's been multiple revisions to make it better and more functional. And only now, in maybe like, a couple, 1 or 2 weeks time, we're going to see the testnet for Spark. So these type of things actually take quite a long time. So it's a lot of sound work. Yeah.
And it's, I hope the audience appreciates the fact that this is not like just forking Bitcoin and putting a new name on it and having a fully transparent blockchain. I mean, privacy coins are way more complicated, as even Monero knows as well. And there are many different approaches, ZK snarks or zero knowledge proofs or Mimblewimble, Lelantus as you're using. And each one of these requires some really hardcore mathematics and some good coders and some good auditors to be able to make it work. And especially since it seems like the governments of the world are always trying to find backdoors or how to break into things like Monero, right?
Right.
and so far, I don't think they're having much success, but they're going to try. That's for sure. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, there's, unfortunately, there's this tendency for like projects or different protocols to kind of hit on each other, like mine's better than yours and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there's always trade-offs, right? Like, I want to get like really high privacy and all of that. And like, with ZK Snarks, you have a trusted setup. You're using very like exotic cryptography and all of that, which had some issues to begin with, right? And then or you have like Mimblewimble, which is like really simple and cool, but then in certain cases, it doesn't offer really good privacy on the transaction graph area. For us, I guess we're saying like, we're kind of like a jack of all trades. We're kind of good at everything. And I think one of the beauty of designs of Spark as well is designed to be, at least to a certain extent, future-proof, because we design it to be modular. So what that means is that when new kind of like zero-knowledge proofs come about or stuff, we can take out a certain component and like kind of slot it in and upgrade it without like, changing the entire structure or redoing everything from scratch. So I think that's a very powerful concept that I guess it's more for like us geeky, nerdy people, but it does have real life consequences towards the project as well. Yeah.
Let's. I want to ask you more about Spark, but before we get there, let's talk about the way FIRO works right now,
Sure.
because I do have a practical question that's come up. I understand that FIRO can always be privacy oriented, but the transactions often come in and then they need to be anonymized.
Right.
Can you explain what this anonymization step actually is doing and why this is necessary in the current pre-Spark implementation?
Right. So, okay, I'll try to keep it short, but there's a history to this. So FIRO actually launched as Zcoin in 2006. It's the same blockchain, just a rebrand, right? And we started with something called the Zero Coin Protocol, which is not the same as the Zero Cash protocol that is used in Zcash. And they were, I guess Zero Coin is kind of like the predecessor to Zero Cash, but it required a lot less trust assumptions, and it was a much more simpler system, which had some benefits as well. But Zcash went down the Zero Cash route, and we continued with the Zero Coin route. And Zero Coin was designed to be actually for Bitcoin. It was meant to be a privacy protocol for Bitcoin.
Really? I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah. So when it was a proposal, but it didn't really gain traction because, it was like, this is too experimental. This is too crazy. It's not that scalable and all of that. So it was kind of like put back on the shelf, right? But then what Zero Coin basically allowed you to do is to burn coins. That means like the kind of like make a certain commitment on the blockchain, but it kind of disappears, like the trace disappears. And then after that, any time in the future, to redeem them for things that come from this common pool. So like think of it like, I shouldn't use mahjong if you're having a Western audience.
Mahjong, yeah. No, I think our people understand that. Many fans.
Yeah, so like you piling all your tiles together, and like everyone's like putting in this. It's like a bunch of there's like a bucket of coins. Everyone's throwing their coins into it whenever they burn it, right? And then when they want to get a new coin, they just take a random coin, or that's not really a random coin, but it's like there's a black box. You can't tell which exact coin I'm pulling from that bucket. So that means it's kind of like pulling it out from this like dark bucket, right? And when that coin comes back up, there's no previous associated transaction history associated to it. Because like with Bitcoin, right, you can trace the coin from its very inception when it was first mined, right? Any coin you can do that. But with these coins that go into the Zero Coin layer, you only can trace it to the point when they come up of the bucket, right? So, and because it was designed for Bitcoin, it had that transparent addresses. It also offers some auditability because you can always see like the amount is there, right? Like everyone can see the amount, right? And therefore, if you want to kind of like anonymize it, you need your private keys to send that back into the pool, right? So that's why there's this anonymization feature, because we started out with a Zero Coin background. We kind of reiterated and improved on that on many, many ways. And then right now, like, okay, maybe I'll stop here, but I'll let you continue your question. Yeah, sorry.
No, this has been great. But so one of my questions in the anonymization step I've noticed is very rapid. It doesn't seem like it's a step that requires like multiple confirmations or anything. That's not the way it works.
No,
right?
no, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then every coin that comes out of that pool then is, of course, as you said, it has no transaction history, so it's a fully fungible coin now. It's as good as any freshly minted coin.
Yes, it's like a freshly mined coin. Correct.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, mined. Excuse me. I should use the word mined. But now, as I understand it, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, then under Lelantus Spark, which is your next protocol that, as you said, it's going to be on testnet in a few weeks, then this anonymization step is no longer necessary, correct?
Correct. That's right. Like you can just send directly from any transparent layer into the Spark address, and that person doesn't have to do anything. It just goes directly into this Spark address, kind of like your shielded layer, your private layer, and you don't have to do that because we didn't used to have a separate addressing structure for private transactions. We only had one, which was the transparent layer, and you had that anonymous pool, but you didn't have a separate addressing system for the anonymous pool. With Spark, you have that, like, I would say like a whole ecosystem in the private where you can send to each other even within that layer. You don't have to bring it out of the bucket. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. That's interesting. And also, isn't addressing simplified under Spark?
Well, it's simplified in the sense that for the user, it's simplified, but on the back end, it's really complex. But
right, for the user, it's simplified now.
Yes,
there's less for the user to have to worry about.
That's right. So that means like you don't have to like re-anonymize or something. You can send to someone with a Spark address, or even if they're using a transparent address, it's all the same process. Everything is thing, and you can share that address. With Bitcoin, you're supposed to use like a new address every time. And even with current like FIRO, you're recommended to use the new addresses whenever you're receiving. But that's a kind of like a downer because, it's very obvious, right? So we want people to be able to share their address like an email address. And when they receive funds, no one can look into your email and know when you're receiving stuff. So it works like an email address for your coins, which is how addresses should work. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so this brings up a really important couple of questions, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So on our platform, Brighteon.com, we have so far implemented, we wanted a tipping system where users could send, crypto tips to the content creators whose videos they enjoy. And so the first tipping system, the first coin that we embraced was Monero. And because it was easy for people to just publish a Monero wallet receive address, and then our website just pops up the QR code and people can just send. Very easy. We don't have any logs. It doesn't go through us, right? It's non-custodial on our part. We have no idea who's tipping who, which is frankly the way we want it. And then we introduced the Epic Cash coin as a tipping system as well. And then that brought up the conundrum of the Mimblewimble blockchain and how wallets have to be open to talk to each other at the same time. So people would try to tip other people, but then those receiving wallets wouldn't be open at that time. Yeah. And then those transactions would just stall until they're canceled. So my question to you, you've already answered the single address. We want to implement FIRO also as a tipping system. I mean, we will do that, by the way. So people can just, especially under Spark, they could just have one receive address, no problem to make that public, correct?
Yes, correct. That's right.
Okay.
That means, go on, sorry.
and then if somebody sends to that address, like the other receiving wallet doesn't have to be open at that time, correct?
Yeah, that's right. There's no, what we call in technical, interactivity. It can be done totally passively. The other person doesn't have to be online. Yeah.
Okay, and thank you for confirming that. I just want to make sure. And that's, and for the audience, let me translate this to the audience. You know that when you send, let's say FIRO from your wallet to somebody else's wallet, it's actually not sending from a wallet to another wallet, right? It's posting it to the blockchain, and then the receiving wallet simply gets a kind of permission to assert ownership and control over those transaction outputs on the blockchain. Is that, am I saying this correctly, Reuben?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the ownership of the coins are being passed to a key that is within the new person's control or something like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. And then it doesn't matter, like a person can go on vacation for 3 months and come back, open their wallet, it's going to scan the blockchain, it's going to synchronize, and boom, all those transactions are now theirs.
Yes. I mean, that is, most cryptocurrencies work like that. Mimblewimble is an exception because of this requirement of interactivity. Yeah. So I wouldn't call it like, oh, this is a great feature. It's more of like, this is how most other blockchains work.
Right.
And
Bitcoin works the same way.
Mimblewimble, but yeah, every other coin works like that.
This is interesting. Every kind of protocol has advantages and disadvantages and so on, right? Like ring signatures, tends to make the blockchain, quite a bit larger in terms of how many kilobytes per transaction, right? Like Mimblewimble's pretty small because of its, pruning, self-pruning, whatever it does, coin join or whatever. What about FIRO? How's the transaction size looking for FIRO transactions?
I would think it's very, like right now, I would say it would be competitive with Monero-ish. But yes, there is some bloat, but like, I don't think it's going to be a problem because like people always talk about the bloat issue, but let's be real, right? Like right now, our entire blockchain fixed in like 20 gigabytes or something, and we've been operating since like 2016, right?
Right.
So, I mean, sure, maybe if we see like a huge uptake, but even SSDs now are like 1 terabyte and stuff like that. The main thing is that
I know.
how fast are you going to be able to sync your wallet? If you can sync it in a decent amount of time and your thing can actually solve it, then there shouldn't be an issue like, oh, we're going to optimize so heavily on this storage, which I don't think is the bottleneck in most cases, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays, so there are now more, I would say, better light wallet infrastructure where you can actually like only take a small proportion of the blockchain and strip all the thing out and still almost function like a full node because you're going to be using like zero knowledge proofs to verify the state of the chain or something like that. So I think, I mean, to me, Mimblewimble is a very elegant solution in certain cases, but it's also very conditional because the savings come from the cut through, right? From A, B to C, you only need to store A to C. But there still is data that needs to be stored, right? So to me, it's a trade-off that we have. I wouldn't say like, oh yes, ours is the smallest or ours is the most scalable, but I don't think it's a problem that it's kind of like the least of priority of issues when we're trying to discuss about building a privacy-preserving cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
like, the world is already so wide. Yeah,
I agree with you. And storage is so cheap. I was buying these NVMe modules a terabyte for $35. It's like wow, this is crazy. I couldn't have imagined that. So how about this? Share with us, if you would, your vision of where are you trying to, or you and your team and all the contributors. What's the plan for FIRO? Obviously Lelantus Spark, we've mentioned that, but how do you see FIRO playing a role in the future of private digital money?
Right. So the way I see it is that, in the short term, of course, we're going to develop Spark because we spent a lot of time getting our fundamentals right. And we think that Spark is the right platform to start like really, just focusing on the use case rather than just purely on the tech. Right. So we already got Spark bear down. But now the next thing that we're going to be doing is what we call Spark assets, right? Which we allow people to actually create their own tokens. That means FIRO doesn't just become a cryptocurrency, it becomes like a privacy ecosystem. And the beauty about Spark assets, right, is that, anyone can create their own coin. It can be a dog coin, it can be a stable coin, it can be a voting token, it can be anything, right? But the beauty about Spark assets is that all the assets share a common anonymity set. What that means is that on the blockchain, you cannot tell whether a stable coin or a dog coin or a Reuben coin or even FIRO is being transferred. It's just like something has been transferred. I don't know what, I don't know who, I don't know who sent it, I don't know who received it, I don't know the amount, I don't even know the asset that is being transferred. So what that means is that even if I have a small little dog coin called, I don't know, Shiba Reuben, right? And there's only 100 people using it, Previously, that would be a problem in privacy because your anonymity set is only with this 100 people, right? Or maybe there's not many people using FIRO or some other coin. But because you're building a whole system where everyone shares this common pool, everyone's usage of the token increases everyone's crowd, right? So I see that as, rather than, focusing just on payments. I mean, sure, we can be used for payments and I don't think that will go away. But I think we also have to realize that beyond just being a replacement to current money, what blockchain has allowed us to do is to create, in a way, new forms of money, new closed loop crypto native ecosystems, like, kind of like what Ethereum has done with DeFi, or, even with NFTs, right? If you want to get into NFTs, you need to have crypto. You want to do stuff in DeFi, you need to have crypto. You can't put US dollars, you have to make US dollars into a crypto coin before you can access those ecosystems. And that to me is, it's not to say that traditional payments are not important. Of course, that's super important, but it is further empowering the strength of this alternative financial system that you're building. So I feel that it is important that we embrace the full, I would say, opportunities that blockchains and token ecosystems provide, rather than just saying we're just going to be focusing on payments. And that gives greater utility to FIRO and its blockchain, rather than just being for payments. Yeah.
Wow. That's huge news, as far as I'm concerned, for this show and for our audience. That's huge news. And I've shared this publicly that we are constantly looking for a way to take our online store loyalty program, and instead of giving people loyalty points that we centrally store in our database, we want to give them loyalty tokens. Right. And loyalty tokens they can always use to, as cash in our store, but they could also send tokens to other people, or even maybe sell those tokens themselves if whatever cash value somebody else wants to offer. Now, so you're saying that with FIRO, at some point, then we could theoretically build like a store token, a reward token on top of FIRO. It would work in the FIRO wallets, or do the wallets need to be
wallets? Yeah, I mean, definitely that will have to be put into the wallets. We may have even custom wallets to do it, but the blockchain will support it. And I guess the only, I would say, like, usability issues that you have to have a little bit of FIRO just to pay for the gas. So that's
that makes sense. Yeah, but it's very inexpensive. Yeah, like fractions really of a penny. Yeah. So then all the nodes that are running FIRO would, of course, continue to just function as nodes that support the things on top of FIRO.
That's right. That means it's not like some, it's not like Bitcoin ordinance, this thing that's kind of like, kind of hacked on. It's with native support, and it kind of, like, I would say that it enjoys all the privacy benefits of FIRO, right? Like, it has all the Spark address. Your Spark address can hold multiple different assets as well. There's no, like, separate whole ecosystem that you need to build. So we also hope to, like, make it easy, because Spark Technologies allows very efficient, what we call threshold multi-sigs, which are really important when you're doing cross-bridging stuff. So it's not just about multi-signature, like custodial type of thing. It's also important when you're talking about cross-chain bridges, right? So let's say, like, it may not be realistic to expect a regulated USDC to build it on FIRO, right? But they're probably they already built it on Ethereum, right? But if people can bridge it over into the FIRO ecosystem, then I don't need to build my own stablecoin. I don't need to do all that risk, right? And have it exist in FIRO's ecosystem as a bridge asset into a thing. So that's why I think that rather than doing all this, like, if you want to have privacy on Ethereum, you use something like Tornado Cash, and that has like a lot of metadata leakage and all of that. And now there are sanction addresses. Just bridge it over into FIRO and just leave it there and transact as you like. And I think that's quite powerful. So it's still a work in progress, but something I'm really excited about.
That's pretty cool, but Reuben, you are definitely getting kind of techie on us. So let me help translate for the audience here. And folks, let me just remind you that the world is going into digital money, whether we like it or not. That's what's happening. And as I see it, there are really two two choices here, or maybe you'll use both, but there's the central bank digital currencies, the Treasury, the Fed, the governments with their currencies, which are not decentralized. They're not private. They're centrally controlled, and they can be programmed so that they can, of course, limit your usage or reward you if your behavior matches the behavior that they wish to see, right? In other words, you're programmable also, not just the money, but socially programmable. Or you can choose decentralized private digital money that's peer-to-peer. That's what we focus on this show. So that's FIRO. So the truth is, if any of this sounds a little bit technical, a little bit intimidating, the truth is we are all going to have to become literate and competent in using these systems and understanding these wallets and learning the terminology. So don't be intimidated by it. There's a lot of tech behind the scenes, but ultimately projects like yours, Reuben, your desire is to make these more user-friendly so that more people can easily enter this realm without having to understand what's under the hood. Because frankly, what's under the hood is pretty scary to a lot of people, right? Your thoughts?
I mean, just to put it down into very simple terms, it's like there are US dollar coins that are being issued on other systems like Ethereum, right? And rather than, having, because if you want to launch a US dollar coin, you need, regulatory approval, you need like banks and all of that, which is really tough, right? But if you can, what bridging does is that I can have those assets kind of like brought over into the FIRO ecosystem, where you can do all these things privately, and then, if you want to convert it back into fiat, you can go back. So it's just like, rather than thinking of blockchains as closed ecosystems, they all somehow can be connected to each other, and you'll be using different blockchains for different things. For some blockchains which are more centralized but have higher performance, you can use it for gaming tokens. You can be using it for like, all these NFTs and stuff, because, well, you're not so concerned about centralization when I'm just, doing some like, like online blockchain game, right? I need the higher performance. While FIRO's blockchain is like, well, I want privacy. I want to do it cheap. I don't want to have any compromises there. So then I'll use FIRO's blockchain. So that's how I see FIRO fitting into the larger ecosystem, not just like one coin rules them all, which, this is increasingly the Bitcoin attitude, which is impossible. You cannot optimize for everything. Yeah, you have to choose, what is my blockchain stand for? What is the blockchain features that make me unique, rather than say, I'm trying to do everything and you end up being good at nothing.
Yeah, good point. And I think a really important use case for FIRO and other privacy coins is that, many people in the world are living in places where there are wars, let's say, going on. So there are refugees out of war zones. There are refugees from economic collapse zones, such as Venezuela, for example. The history of the world is a history of revolutions and collapse, and sometimes currencies collapse, and sometimes political dissidents are persecuted by whatever regime is in power in whatever country around the world. I mean, North Korea, for example. So private digital money is a way also for people to take store of value with them in their head, by memorizing the seed phrase and then restoring the wallet at their destination. So, if you try to take gold out of one of those countries, it's probably going to be taken from you. Anything physical, it's going to get stolen. But if you take something in your mind and then you can restore it when you get to a safe destination, then that preserves the value and it allows you to restart a life wherever your destination happens to be. Does that, I know you agree with that, Reuben, but what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, like, even not going to that like extent, which is, yes, it's happening, it's very dystopian, but some people may say, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I mean, that's why we're trying to fight for a future that doesn't happen, right? We're making these things. But at the same time, even now, right, I am facing issues. For example, our lead developer is Russian, right? He's not a supporter of the war or anything like that. But then because of sanctions, he's in trouble too. Like not because he's being targeted specifically, but then it's just by virtue of being a Russian, regardless of your actual affiliation. I couldn't pay
Right.
to him. I couldn't do all this sort of stuff. Cryptocurrency offers that ability for him to do totally legal work, right? It's just coding, right? And allow me to do that, right? Of course, like, we managed to relocate him and all of that. But the fact that, like, okay, like there's another example where there was, we have one researcher who's a Nicaraguan. I'm not sure how to
Nicaraguan.
pronounce
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So apparently, like, US imposed certain sanctions on specific individuals, but then now companies are like, no, we're not sending any money to Nicaragua, even though this person won first prize in a particular zero knowledge competition. They say, no, we can't send it to you. And like, that's total rubbish, right? Like, nowadays, sanctions are now, I would say, one of the preferred ways for countries to, or rather the US to kind of exert their dominance. And we are seeing the increased weaponization of money. China's doing it. Every superpower is going to be trying to weaponize money. CBDCs are a step in that direction, but that doesn't mean that we don't already have this kind of control, right? It's happening today. And that's why we have to have this like separate financial system that kind of exists alongside it, right? That allows you to have this type of freedom. So yeah, it's going to be a battle, but it's affecting people today, not even people fleeing or stuff like that. Yeah, it's
That's
very
a
real.
really excellent insight there, Reuben. And let me just add to it. So, and yes, the U.S. loves to fling sanctions around the world at the drop of a hat, it seems. But what we've all observed is that the sanctions, they never really hurt the leaders of the countries that they're intended to hurt. They end up hurting the everyday people, right? The farmer, the coder, the small business owner. And so the sanctions are really an inappropriate weapon, a financial weapon that, again, only typically hurts the innocent. And we've seen that, especially over the last, year and a half or whatever's been going on with the US and Russia and so on. But this fundamental issue of the right to private money, that is the right to control the output of your labor, the right to determine how you wish to spend or not spend, i.e. save your money without being subjected to all of these controls, limitations, withdrawal limits, dictates, and so on. Like, this is a fundamental human right now that I really see being asserted by even Bitcoiners now. I hear Bitcoiners talking like Austrian economists. And this is something new. I didn't hear this 5 or 10 years ago out of crypto. And now it's like crypto is coming into this maturity of understanding the role of self, of autonomy, self-determination in your money. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of add to that, this is kind of like a pet peeve of mine because, like, yeah, I really love Bitcoin. It was like the OG that started it all and has the most adoption and stuff like that. But increasingly, I'm very frustrated with the thought leadership, or rather the vocal thought leadership surrounding it. When people talk about, oh yeah, censorship resistance, but then you have all transparent addresses that can be locked down, or like say, like, don't accept money from this particular address or any funds that stem from it. You can have this decentralized, currency, but because of existing regulations and, all the funds are visible sitting in an address, those can be sanctioned and affected as well. I mean, like, sure, remember in Bitcoin, the trace of every single Bitcoin can always be traced back. So once I've sanctioned this one address, any funds that flow from that, once it hits to anything, it's going to be locked down as well. So that's why I see like privacy cryptocurrencies, where you can't even see where the funds are sitting on, is very important. And of course, people would argue and say, well, isn't this kind of like enabling crime and all of that? And I feel like there's a bit of a distraction, right? Like, we always talk about like privacy cryptocurrencies being used by criminals and stuff like that. But look, all the big crimes in the world are happening through the regular financial system, and it is not difficult to hide it, right? So it's kind of like you can have controls. Like if the government wants to control it at the point of conversion when you convert it from crypto to fiat. Like apply the same rules that you apply to cash to crypto. I don't see why there should be a war on crypto per se, right? So anyway, that's a bit digressing, but I just like really pissed off when people say, "Oh, we're all for censorship resistance," and they're like, "No, use Bitcoin," and then like, no, it's kind of like, yeah, it's not good. It can get you in trouble. And
do you think, Reuben, that a lot of people, when they buy Bitcoin, they think Bitcoin is something like Monero, right? And only later do they learn, like after they've sent 50 transactions and maybe bought cocaine or whatever out of their wallet, then later on they realize, oh my gosh, that's all traceable, right? And then it seems like it's an education process to realize that, oh my gosh, Bitcoin is actually very public. Every transaction is recorded and visible by anybody, not just Chainalysis, but other companies. I mean, don't you think that's the case with a lot of people? They just don't yet know about privacy.
This is how I got into cryptocurrencies, because I started the VPN service in 2007, and in 2012, 2013, VPNs were considered, even though they were not illegal, they were considered high risk, kind of like in the same category as gambling and pornography for some reasons, and we were being deplatformed from many payment processors and all of that.
Wow.
And then someone said like, hey, why don't you take a look into Bitcoin? I was like, what the heck is that, right? And then, I don't want to be, all these customers were telling me, if you're a privacy service, you're a VPN service, I don't want to give up my payment details to anyone. So why don't I pay you with Bitcoin? So, back then Bitcoin was considered anonymous enough, right? And then I realized, oh, well, actually it's not that anonymous. It's probably not anonymous, but back then, the infrastructure wasn't that great, right? Then I went down the rabbit hole, went into Monero, went into Darkcoin, which is now Dash, and that's how I kind of like ended up, in FIRO or Zcoin, right? So it's this whole trail of like history from being deplatformed from financial services for doing something that's totally illegal, right?
Wow, that's a fascinating history. I didn't know that. But it brings up, like I used, the first time I ever used Monero was to buy VPN services for that specific reason. I didn't want my credit card on file on a VPN. That kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
you have to pass in no logs, right? So how do you know?
No logs. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know. So at least you can use a privacy crypto. But let's talk about that for a second. FIRO is not yet, to my knowledge. I mean, you know how Binance deleted a bunch of privacy coins. I think wasn't FIRO one that Binance dropped because of that?
It's very confusing. So first of all, I mean, Binance only delisted us in 4 countries in Europe, which is like Spain, France, Italy, and Portugal. So when they say delistings, it's like delistings in 4 different countries, and they cited local regulatory concerns. They didn't tell me the specific thing. I said, is it because of MICA, which is a upcoming regulation in Europe that comes into force sometime next year? They say no, local regulations and whatnot. And then after that, Binance kind of went around and said, oh, we're relisting a bunch of coins like Zcash, Pivax, like Verge and all of that. And that, I mean, to me, I'm not one to kind of shit on coins, but I really cannot stand it when you're a privacy coin and you are celebrating how transparent you are. Because
like a bunch of coins went back to Binance and said, we're not really that private.
Everything's public, everything you can see our amounts and say who's sending to who. I'm like, wait a minute, like you say you're a privacy coin, now you say we're not a privacy coin. Like, if you are not a privacy coin, you say not, that's fine. But if you are selling yourself as a privacy coin and then say, oh no, we're now compliant, well, it doesn't mean like transparent or private doesn't mean non-compliant. It just means that you just sold yourself out, right? So anyway, we also were really confused because it's like, well, what is the difference between something like Zcash, which also has a transparent layer, versus us, right? Like the like if you think on it from a regulatory perspective, the same amount of data is being leaked when you use transparent addresses. And there was like this back and forth, and I was like trying to convince them. But eventually, they still said, "Nope, you're still in the same boat as Monero, Beam." Even Beam was already delisted long time ago, so I don't know why they included them.
Yeah, they mentioned Beam twice. Like, we banned you and we banned you again. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, even NAF, like they got banned like many years ago, and then they're like, like why keep on hitting them down, right? So now I'm not really sure what's going on, because I think Binance is facing also a lot of regulatory pressure from many ends. So now apparently we are still available in these countries, but I don't know. I don't have my hopes up that we're going to be there forever, at least in certain jurisdictions. I don't think Binance will like delist us completely, but it will probably limit access to FIRO in different countries, right?
Yeah.
I
think that not being listed on these exchanges, I don't think that's a death blow for any project. In fact, there are some benefits to it, right? Because the whole idea of decentralization is really the antithesis of what these centralized exchanges are often doing, especially when people hold their coins on the exchanges. It's like, whoa, what are you even doing in crypto? Don't you understand the ethos of this? You're supposed to hold your own coins in your own wallet. If you don't understand that, you might not be in the right place, right? So I love there might be a short-term hit to projects, but long-term, I think it's a healthy process to get people off those exchanges to doing more peer-to-peer usage of these coins. Do you agree with that?
I guess a more nuanced take on this, because obviously in the ideal world, I would like everyone to be using, decentralized exchanges, atomic swaps, and all of that good stuff, which we already have. We have, cross-chain atomic swaps on our FIRO DEX and all of that, right? But we're seeing very, very little uptake, even with the only time that I saw like a huge uptake in use in our DEX was when USDC was crashing and it was losing its peg, and then people were just like selling everything, like letting us buy all the USDC on these DEXs. So they just completely wiped out the liquidity for USDC on our DEX. So that was I guess like interesting, but other than that, like there aren't that many users, and I feel that a delisting, even for something like Monero, like if you take away Binance and Kraken at the same time, they will lose a lot of integrations, all the swap providers that rely on them and all of that. And we say, yeah, in the long term, it'll be fine. Yeah, maybe with Monero, maybe, right? But for many like smaller projects, like how do we get back to that, I would say, like critical mass to be able to function as a currency, right? Like we have seen many coins that function well, but then they just don't have the liquidity for that. So ideally, it's a phased approach out. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a practical question then on that. So, we reach a very large audience of, relatively well-to-do people, right? So our audience is not broke 22-year-olds, okay, which is usually the people that are doing the exchanges. They have no money, but they want, VIP tech support, by the way. Our audience, actually, they have a lot of money. They've worked 30 or 40 years. They're retiring, or they have pensions, they have savings, but they don't have a lot of strong technical knowledge necessarily. Yeah. There are exceptions to that, but usually the tech is more intimidating. But how can they interact with FIRO right now? Like, tell us, I'm just in simple terms, if people want FIRO or want to use FIRO, like what's the DEX? What's the web address for that, for example?
It's called FIRO DEX. I have to admit, at the moment, like there's a GitHub page to that. It is not the most user-friendly, and that's why I don't expect people to use it right now, because it's easy for us because you just start it up, you set up a wallet, and then you just use it as anything, but there is a learning curve. But I feel like for easy people, use something like a swap provider like ChangeNow and whatnot. At least you're not like beholden to a particular exchange or whatnot. Right. But eventually, the end goal is to get these DEXs to a point where the user interface, like you don't have to download anything, you don't have to download a separate client, you can just do it from within a website or your browser or something like that and be able to trade. And by that point, because there's a lot of DEX infrastructure, but there's no integrations. If the swap providers can integrate with DEX liquidity, which is very slowly happening, but once that happens, then I say, oh yeah, if we lose centralized exchanges, that's fine. But this is still a process, and this is still like the problem is that centralized exchanges will always offer the gateway to fiat. To do that in a decentralized manner is very hard, because even stuff like local Monero or stuff like that is far from ideal. It's not, you can't do it for large amounts or anything like that. So I think that the DEX infrastructure has to catch up. Yeah.
We interviewed local Monero, and I've used local Monero, and I experienced that. There's a lot of roadblocks, especially if you want to move a large amount of fiat into Monero. You're going to pay super high premiums through that kind of process as well. And, the exchanges can make that way more cost effective if you can get on the exchange and complete the KYC, which not everybody can, right?
That's so, right. Yeah.
It's almost like there's a penalty, obviously, or a premium you pay for not being able to go through KYC. And I was, by the way, I was temporarily banned by Kraken, and then I tweeted about it, and I said, why are they banning me? This is crazy. I didn't even do a single transaction, by the way. And then they reached out to me, and they apologized, and they reinstated me, and they said that what happened was they thought somebody was impersonating me, and they shut it down because they couldn't believe that it was actually me doing this. I'm like, hey, I gave you my ID and everything. What do you think? Somebody looted my whole, my passport and everything? I mean, but it's, they have to be kind of hyper, security minded, because there's a lot of people committing fraud from the fiat side to try to get the crypto, because the crypto transactions are non-reversible.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, like, I even though I'm really like pro freedom, pro decentralized stuff, like if you're going to still live in the world of fiat, which is hard to do so, it's hard to not do so. You have to expect that you cannot say screw regulation, even though this thing says like crypto anarchy and stuff like that, like there still needs, if you're still going to live in a fiat world, there are some people who manage to live completely on crypto, but even they rely on centralized services to convert their crypto into like credit cards or gift cards and all of that. Those still rely on centralized liquidity, right? So to say that, can Monero survive if they lose all their centralized exchange listings tomorrow? Probably not. Another cryptocurrency that maybe offers some privacy that still remains listed would take that place, right? I mean, this is where we are in this world, right? And unfortunately, like Monero right now is like kind of a bit like a bogeyman, right? Like if we're gonna ban something, we're gonna ban Monero, right? So like I feel that yes, we should be aiming to a world that we can survive like all like centralized exchange delistings, but realistically, that's not going to happen that quickly. It's a process, right? We have to, and Monero has the guess, maybe even they cannot survive something like that. I mean, this is just like pure speculation, right?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I respectfully, I think Monero could survive that for a number of reasons, but its value would probably take a hit, no question about that. But I think it could survive in a lot of. I think there are a lot of communities actually that want to take up sort of some form of digital private money to use amongst themselves, and like co-ops and PMAs, private membership associations, and so on. I see a lot of that happening, and we're actually interviewing a future guest about that. But just to get back to FIRO, you're never. Let me confirm. You're never going to have FIRO. I mean, it's always going to be private, right? It's not going to be a choice like Zcash where it can be public or private. Is that correct?
So, I mean, right now, because of the transparent layer, there's like, this thing, right? But with Spark, we're going to make all our wallets private by default, right? But whether it's enforced, that is because there are certain parts of the infrastructure that still relies on the transparent address, like the master nodes and stuff like that. That's our next step. So we're going to remove all of that from the transparent layer, then switch to full Spark. Then it'll be like, mandatory privacy, no more I would say, like, no more playing around with the transparent layer, which I guess is a legacy that we inherited from our zero coin heritage, right? But there needs to be some steps to happen there. We already have a roadmap to get there, but it requires development time. But I do feel that even with Spark as it is going to be a very, very major step in the right direction to getting more people using the private transactions. Because one of the things that Binance told me was, like, if you guys want to be not included in the privacy coin list, you can have a blockchain analysis firm. You can sign up a blockchain analysis firm that can certify that they can trace your transactions. I'm like, no, I'm not doing
that. Yeah, you have to prove that you're a surveillance chain, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, well, wild. Now we're about to wrap this up, and I really appreciate your time. We're coming up on an hour here, but I want to. It's one of the last things I want to say that my impression from taking a deep dive into this space, especially privacy coins, is that we're really in the infancy of private digital money. It's like a lot of things are trying to be sorted out, worked out. A lot of experiments are being run, ideas are being floated. Some of them are being shot down and so on. Whereas sort of Bitcoin is pretty mature now, how many years later from its inception. But privacy coins are more in the adventure stage, it seems, yes. Right? And it's kind of exciting. And I'm really looking forward to what comes next. But a lot of questions have not been resolved yet. What's your take on that?
Well, you would say, yeah, it may seem very adventurous that we're always trying all these new things to hide privacy. The things are, the building blocks are starting to become very well understood, right? Like, this is no longer seen, like certain components that we use, which used to be like, oh my God, we'll never be implementing that. That's too risky. Now it's just like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to use bulletproofs to hide the amounts. Like it's like certain components, building blocks of it are becoming very well established that people like just accept it as it is. And that's how we are progressing with our tech. Yes, there will always be new developments and stuff like that. I don't think they shouldn't be, but I feel that we're getting to a good state in terms of technology, and it's not as adventurous as it used to be. Like you wouldn't have to worry. Like, sure, obviously there's risk of cryptographic flaws and things like that, but I would say they are much more fewer and far between. It's getting better. I'm not saying there's no risk. Obviously there is risk, but projects are getting better at doing it, which is why when we had our paper, we had full security proofs, we had like several audits and all of that. Obviously none of this are 100%, but the state of privacy coins, the general quality of projects developing this stuff have been improving because we now fully understand the risks that we take when we are doing these things. Yeah.
What about the risk of switching over to Spark? Because if I were a project manager, that would be terrifying to me. The thing like people are using it, and then we got to switch over. Probably, I don't know, is there a hard fork on the miners and things like that, right? So.
Well, I'm not too worried in particular about the transition. We've gone through, like, even Monero has gone through like several hard fork transitions. Like, that's not a problem as long as you have an engaged community. Like, come on, you don't need like 6 months to upgrade. Like, it's more or less a drop-in upgrade. You just freaking update your wallet. Like, what's the big deal, right? So, but then in terms of as a project, like, steward and someone that's like, leading the project, making sure that there's no bugs or catastrophic failures, that's always weighing on my mind, right? And that's why we, people are like, oh, when are you going to launch mainnet? That's why we are not rushing. Like, technically, if you wanted us to do it, we can launch mainnet right now, but we're trying to be as careful as possible and making sure that we work out all this as much as we can. So yeah, it is terrifying. I mean, I'm not going to say that, I'm totally sleeping like, soundly at night when the hard fork date comes on. I can assure you, all of us will be like, really looking at it. But at the same time, with this fear also comes a lot of excitement. And once, Lelantus Spark has gone in, everything is smooth and everything, we all breathe a collective sigh of relief and be much happier with a much higher level of privacy. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really look forward to that day, and I would love to, in fact, invite you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
That's quite a ways out, but when that happens, I think
so
that's
long. It's a couple of months.
Yeah, well, let's keep in touch, because that's a huge deal. I mean, I think that's a major milestone, not just for FIRO, but actually for private digital money across the board. The Lelantus Spark upgrade. Has anybody else implemented that on mainnet yet?
No. I mean, this is our protocol that we've been pushing. I would guess
that's what I thought, yeah.
The closest would be Monero with their Seraphis protocol, which has a lot of shared elements with us, but they're still not close to mainnet launch as far as I know. But yeah,
right.
So that's it.
So it's interesting. Both FIRO and Monero are going to have some pretty major upgrades in the months ahead, or maybe for Monero it might be well into next year. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But it's going to be exciting for both projects. Well, Reuben, this has been a real pleasure, and I just can't thank you enough. I mean, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've learned a lot from you, and you've shared some tremendously valuable information with us. I just want to thank you for your time. It's been great.
Thank you. I hope I did not disappoint you too much.
No, not at all. Not at all. This has been great, but it's only scratching the surface. I mean, I know our audience is going to ping us and say, we got to get you back on. Would they have more questions, and so on and so forth. So, to the extent that you're able to do that, we'll do that. And then what we're going to do right now for those watching is we're going to bring in my co-host, Todd Pittner, and he's going to review this interview because he wasn't able to be here during this interview. And then we're going to have a reaction discussion about all of this. So Reuben, we won't say anything bad behind your back, by the way, but we're going to talk about this and what our thoughts are and where we think all this is going. And so that's going to be coming up next. But Reuben, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
And the website, folks, is FIRO, FIRO.org. And there you can find out everything and find all the links and find all the wallets and everything you want to do. Just understand that this is not financial advice. You notice we don't talk about price and things like that, or we don't talk about speculation. We're talking about the tech and the use cases, because that's what we believe in. But I can say right here before I close this out, we do intend to implement FIRO as a tipping system on our platforms, and we do intend also to implement FIRO as a means of payment in our own online stores, and to also advocate for that with our e-commerce partners that have been asking me, like, how can we take privacy coins? So we're going to be implementing that and sharing code with them and doing a lot of cool things. So we're going to help create a lot of use cases. So hopefully, Reuben, that'll also give your community some use cases to look at and say, wow, we can use FIRO to buy, organic food or whatever. So that's coming. So thank you very much. All right, so stay tuned, folks. Todd Pittner coming up with the reaction to this interview right here on Decentralize.tv. Take care, everybody. Join the official discussion channel for this show on Telegram at t.me/decentralizedtv, where you can ask questions or offer suggestions of who we should interview next. Also, be sure to subscribe to the email newsletter on Decentralize.tv, where you'll be alerted about 1 day in advance of each new upcoming episode before it gets published. On Decentralize.tv, you'll also find links to our video channels and social media channels across all platforms, including Brighteon, Rumble, BitChute, Twitter, Truth Social, and more. Check it all out at Decentralize.tv. FIRO Scorecard. Advantages. Very strong original privacy tech with Lelantus. Tried and true cryptographic building blocks using discrete log. Very high anonymity sets under the new Lelantus Spark rollout. Healthy trading volume and liquidity means easy to get in and out. shares innovations and some code structures with Monero developers. Every FIRO coin is a fresh, fungible coin with no history or baggage. Transactions work even when receiving wallets are offline. No need for a trusted setup means better security. Under Spark, we'll support creation of private, secure assets on top of FIRO. Disadvantages. Relatively few people know about FIRO compared to Monero. But this can also be an advantage as it won't be as quickly targeted by lawmakers trying to ban privacy coins. Isn't represented in popular online exchanges such as Kraken. Isn't yet accepted as a direct payment currency in many online stores. The Lelantus Spark upgrade isn't yet live, and its success is not guaranteed. Currently requires an extra step in wallets to anonymize received transactions. Requires more processing power compared to non-privacy coins. Best use cases. Potentially viable for storing value in a way that isn't visible or trackable. Good for making donations or purchases without financial surveillance. It's fairly fast for privacy-preserving e-commerce transactions. A viable way to transport assets across borders without government intervention or confiscation. All right, welcome back to Decentralize TV. And in this segment, this is our reaction segment. We're now joined by my co-host, Todd Pittner. Welcome, Todd. Great to have you back.
Hola, amigo. Good seeing you.
Is that because you went traveling down to South America or wherever? Where were you? Central America?
I was in, no, Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, you're in Costa Rica. So
yeah,
okay.
Los Sueños.
So do you speak much Spanish?
Niet.
Oh, we're taking a world tour now. Okay. All right, it's all good. But we welcome
my wife is Russian, so I can speak fluent.
Oh, okay.
Niet. No, not fluent Russian, just fluent niet.
Fluent niet. Okay, that's great. Well, get us all together. It's going to be like a world tour, you know.
Yes.
But anyway, you saw the interview with Reuben at FIRO, and this is what we're going to talk about here now.
Yeah.
And Reuben isn't listening at the moment, so we can say whatever we want. Although
yes,
he'll probably hear about it. So what
we should tell people that we made a game time decision. We did invite a couple of guests to stay on, and then we decided, you know what, not really fair to us, not really fair to them. You know, I mean, because what if we did say something that was negative? We wouldn't want to hurt their feelings. Not saying that we ever would.
Well, we may have to hurt a few feelings along the way at some point,
Probably,
but maybe not today. So, but I'm not, I mean, look, we're here to assess these projects in the best way we can and to be very upfront with the audience of what we like and what we don't like. And, you know, there's another project that we did an interview, and you and I both felt like that project wasn't really quite ready yet. And that's reflected in the review. But let's talk about FIRO today. So give us your initial reaction.
You know, there are three things that I want to touch on in this review, and that is Schiller, Crypto Barbecue, and Bilbo Island.
What's that? What's all that got to do?
That's not crystal clear to you, Mike?
No.
No. Schiller, I had to take a note there. My favorite part of the interview was him just being self-effacing, saying, "I'm really a bad Schiller."
Right.
I thought that was classic. And that is so Reuben. I've known him for a good while now. And that's exactly what he would say. And he means every word of it. And as you could tell by being the interviewer, you know, he didn't shill a thing. I mean, he's just full of knowledge. And but Crypto Barbecue, I was probably about 3/4 through the interview, and I was just sitting here. You know, he's just got a joyful smile about him, and he's very conversational and obviously bright. But I'm like, man, if there was ever a barbecue where we just invited a bunch of crypto dudes, I definitely would want Reuben there. Wouldn't you? I mean, he's
I
just a
do
good
have a
guy.
quarter steer in my freezer, as we mentioned last time, that because my neighbor has butchered a steer. So you think Reuben would be interested in? Is he a vegetarian?
Who cares? We'd still invite him.
All right, we could grill some veggies or whatever. Welcome to Texas. You gotta eat some brisket while you're here. All right, so
And the last one that we're going to touch on is Bilbo Island, because and I want you to educate me more on this, because
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Because
Bilbo
you're
Island, is that from Lord of the Rings? What is that?
It is. But Spark Lelantus, to where he's talking about what seemed to me like he's almost intending to build an Ethereum type ecosystem on an island, to where no matter what asset you put on the island, it just puts a Bilbo Baggins ring on it and it disappears. And it can transact on these. See what I did there?
Okay, I see that now. Okay, so, privacy coins, yes.
Yes, privacy coins. But I thought it was very cool, if indeed it's going to work this way, to where FIRO, the blockchain, ultimately will be a place in space where other assets can come on and somehow, and you can educate me, is that what Lelantus Spark is? To where you put on this shield or you put on the ring and you disappear and you can transact on that island without anybody knowing?
Well, Lelantus Spark is, the entire new protocol, which will require new addressing as well, that FIRO is in the process of rolling out. And one of the interesting things here that has happened from the time that I filmed that interview with Reuben and today, FIRO has actually rolled out on their testnet Lelantus Spark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's actually working right now.
Wow.
Which is
good job, Reuben.
I know. Pretty cool. The guy doesn't mess around. It's not, of course, going to be on mainnet, or it's not going to be rolled out for the live project for probably several months. And in that interim, it's possible they might discover some things that maybe set them back or something. But Lelantus Spark, I think, represents a technological leapfrog, or a leap that would put FIRO. If FIRO gets this out, let's say before the end of this calendar year, I think it puts FIRO ahead of Monero in terms of the tech, because Monero still has the ring signatures of 16, not yet. They haven't yet adopted, full membership proofs. That's being talked about, but that's a ways away. That it might be a year away. It might be a year and a half away. So FIRO with this Lelantus Spark, which I admit I don't fully understand all the little subtleties of it, but this, in what I do understand, it puts FIRO in the lead of privacy coin tech once they roll it out to mainnet. So I'm going to watch this very carefully.
And isn't it basically that with this tech, that it doesn't matter the coin, the sender, the receiver, the payment amount, none of those, it's not that they're obfuscated, they're just not there. The Lelantus Spark gives it that shield, gives it that element of privacy, to where he was talking about we could create a DTV coin, if you would, right?
On top of the FIRO system. Right.
Right. Now,
exactly.
Is that all part of Lelantus Spark? You need Lelantus Spark to build it on our go ahead.
Yeah, I would say Lelantus Spark it provides the infrastructure on top of which those coins would be built. But Lelantus Spark is really that's the method by which the privacy is achieved, the privacy of the transaction amounts, the transaction receiving and sending addresses, and so on. That's Lelantus Spark. But then on top of that, as let's say a layer 2 privacy digital asset could be created that runs with the benefit of the existing FIRO nodes. So let's say, right? So if we wanted to launch, let's say, a coin, let's call it decentralized coin or whatever, or Todd coin. Let's just call it Todd coin.
Let's go DTV coin.
Okay, DTV coin. All right. If we want to launch a DTV token, I guess technically would be the term.
Yep, right.
It would be a layer 2 token that rides on top of FIRO, but it's powered by the FIRO
layer 1 blockchain.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying. So FIRO's nodes and miners, all of which I'm quite certain are going to need a hard fork with Lelantus Spark, by the way. But that's not a problem. I mean, they're all on board. It's such a great achievement. They're going to do it.
Right.
But there's going to be a hard fork at some point, I imagine. And then Lelantus Spark rolls out. And then once that is active, then other people can start building digital assets on top of it. And depending on how quickly the wallets start to support that, I could imagine a day in 2024, for example, where you can open up your FIRO wallet and you can have FIRO coins, but you could also have like a DTV coin or token if we wanted to do that, or other people's tokens that they want to create.
They would all be recognized by the FIRO wallet because they are FIRO. They're
potentially, I mean, theoretically, I would say, because they're all going to use the same zero knowledge proof math. But I guess it's up to the wallet developers to decide, you know, what's the process of having your token recognized by the wallets? Because they probably don't want a million people throwing in like junk tokens to pollute the wallets, right? So some of this has to be worked out.
But this really empowers us, right, out there who do want to launch our own privacy project, our own privacy. Like, really intrigued me when you were talking about, where's my notes, that you want to set up your loyalty tokens.
Loyalty points, yeah, exactly.
So you could do that by creating your own token on top of FIRO using Lelantus Spark.
Absolutely. Right. So just to clarify to our audience, so when people purchase products from my online store, healthrangerstore.com, we have a loyalty points program. It just pays you loyalty points, but actually it's just our own centralized ledger keeping track of how many points you have. And then you can use those points for future purchases. Well, what if instead of giving you these centralized points, what if we gave you actual tokens that you could you could take possession of those in your wallet and you could use them for purchases, or you could send them to people. You could send them as a gift to someone and then they could use them in the store, or you could sell them on the open market.
Yeah.
Right? You could do swaps or exchanges and actually sell those tokens. So yeah, we are very interested in doing that. And
so doesn't that make Reuben like the Vitalik of Ethereum, to where, I mean, he created FIRO, but what he is creating, just like Ethereum blockchain, to where it revolutionized, you know, altcoins.
Well, yeah, but hold on a second. First of all, I think Reuben himself would interject and say it's not just him. Obviously, there's all these amazing people. It's a community of dedicated developers, and you know, there's a whole history of FIRO when it was Zcoin, for example. And there's a lot of people who have been involved over the years. So, and Reuben understands that. He's very humble. I like that about him.
I love that about him. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to deal with arrogant pricks in the crypto space. Do you? You want to deal with arrogant pricks?
No eopaths. No.
Eopath. What's an eopath?
Well, you have your sociopath, you have your psychopaths. I guess like if you take a look at the attributes of both of those, and you combine them into one, what would that be? A maximum? Like
if you had maximum psychopathy or something?
Yeah. So crypto's, I think, full of those. Well, any high finance, right? Yeah. It's just, bottom line is Reuben is no eopath.
Yeah, Reuben is not. He's not an arrogant prick. That's for sure. No, he's very humble and he's very smart, and he's easy to communicate with. And these properties matter. You know, it really does matter.
Yeah.
And as part of the show, Todd, you and I are getting to talk to a lot of leaders. Even we've done other interviews that haven't yet aired, and we're seeing a lot of different personalities, and it's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
And for the most part, I'm really impressed with the personalities that I've been meeting.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, surprisingly impressed.
Yeah.
We haven't met an arrogant one yet, have we?
Well, not on the show. not on the show. Not all are welcome on the show, but the ones we've had on the show have all been pretty cool. But getting back to FIRO, so I think the idea is, at least as I understand it, that FIRO is going to be much more than a coin, but rather almost like a platform for digital assets that use the FIRO ecosystem of zero knowledge proofs and Lelantus Spark and so on, which
right.
In my book, I think that makes FIRO incredibly valuable to the crypto ecosystem sometime before the end of this year, is my guess.
Now, did you pick up what he was putting down, though, when he was talking about the island and the bridges to the island, that literally other assets out there could come onto his island? Like, in my mind, I was like, does that mean Bitcoin could actually bridge over and become part of that ecosystem, basically be a private Bitcoin?
I didn't quite follow if maybe he's talking about a FIRO wrapped Bitcoin, I'm not quite sure the structure, but you could take other assets and you could bring them into the FIRO universe and wrap them around the Lelantus Spark infrastructure. I know Reuben's going to watch this and laugh because I'm not saying it correctly, but I think that's the idea.
Guess what, Mike? Guess what? Hey, Reuben, do us a favor. Come on. This is an opportunity for us to promote our Telegram. If people go to Telegram and just search for Decentralize TV, Decentralized.tv, come join us. And Reuben, if you would come answer these questions in there, I know you're already in the group. Thank you very much.
He is in the group, yes.
Yes, but that if you could kind of, it's obviously clear as mud to me, but that's because I'm a little slow up the on ramp.
Well, but here, let me ask you a question, Todd, because I don't understand this. I don't understand the value or the pricing that is associated with these different coins. So let's say we look at Monero, right? Mm-hmm. It's the #1 in private digital money. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot going for it. We've interviewed local Monero and so on. And Monero, I think, is right now $165 a coin or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you look at FIRO, and I checked before we came on, and FIRO is like $1.75.
And it has the same supply basically as Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly, Todd. But what confuses me is like FIRO. How can FIRO be 1/100th of the value of Monero, essentially, and yet FIRO has very advanced technology that is about to leapfrog, at least arguably, Monero in terms of privacy, right? So the privacy is not the determining factor of the price; it's the popularity. Yes, which is the price.
And to quote another guest that we recently had on, who we asked the same question, he basically said, "We're the world's worst marketers." so I think that would be my answer right now. Is I think that Reuben and his team have been so focused on what is most important to them, which is getting the tech right, that they're not even in that zone yet of evangelizing from the rooftops.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're really waiting for this Lelantus Spark to get rolled out, and then they feel like they're ready to evangelize it more aggressively.
And I mean, what I've found in covering private crypto over the last two and a half years is you really do have to evangelize these things, and everything is pay to play. So the coins that
really not here.
No,
right. No, nobody our show.
No, read our code of ethics.
That's right.
Decentralized.tv, please.
But everywhere else, it's what you're talking about.
Yeah, everywhere else. So, you have Monero, right? They're a community. They're large enough now. There's enough support there, but smaller communities, let's call them startups, if you will. If you are a fair launch, privacy coin, you're doing it right. You don't ever want anyone to tap you on the shoulder to declare that you're a security. Ultimately, funding for any kind of marketing initiatives comes from either, let's say, in FIRO's case, he has that 15% dev tax on the block rewards, which really ends up being rather nothing. I mean, it's something, but it's nothing.
It's something, but it's ending also. I think eventually it fades out.
and it's nothing that is going to allow you to go out and do a $500,000 campaign, right?
Right.
Like some of these other. I mean, you get hit up all the time with these people that come in and tell you what they can do, and we used to always like to say, how about just invest in our project and put your own oar in the water if you're so damn good at this stuff. But
he says there are people who have donated some pretty substantial funds to FIRO, which I understand that. I think FIRO, it's a really important project for the privacy of humankind, and we all agree that privacy is a basic human right. And I loved how Reuben was talking about how there was an election that was carried out using
brilliant
the tech that he has for integrity of the ballot, essentially. Now, gosh, can you think of a country where that might be useful? We don't know anything about honest elections. We're Americans. What the hell?
That was fascinating. I would like to have a follow-up with him to really just dive deep into that as far as the genesis. Like, how did that even come about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but done. Okay, done. My job's done. It's the crypto barbecue. Reuben, you got to come tell us that story at Mike's crypto.
And he lives in
barbecue.
Malaysia. That's a long way to fly to Texas or Florida, for that matter.
He'll figure it out.
Okay, well, virtual barbecue. Okay. The next thing, though, here's what else I like about FIRO is that how Wimble blockchains, it's more difficult because wallets have to be online at the same time in order to send to each other. We've run into this on the tipping system a little bit. But FIRO, like Monero, it doesn't require wallets to be open, right? So in FIRO, and I've tested this, I've set up numerous machines, by the way. I've installed more crypto wallets in the last 2 months than most people will ever do in their life. I know you have. I've got multiple machines and multiple wallets everywhere, and I'm destroying wallets and recreating wallets, and I'm testing sends. But anyway, FIRO, you can send, and the other wallet doesn't have to be online. So that's pretty convenient for tipping.
Yes.
The thing about, if you go to FIRO.org, the website, it shows you how to get FIRO here, and it says like get a wallet. And if you go there, there are 3 wallets that are listed, and I've tried all 3. I will say that this wallet, Electrum, is probably the best one to work with.
Okay.
It's the simplest. So if people want to know which one, I've done the QT wallet and the Electron wallet. And I will say, being critical of FIRO, their wallets look a little dated. That's my only real criticism. They need some upgrades to the UI of the wallets.
Yes.
And that'll probably happen, with Lelantus Spark. But for the existing system of how FIRO works, you got to understand that when you receive a transaction, you need to click the anonymize button so that those coins are then anonymized, which happens almost instantly, by the way.
Okay.
As Reuben was saying, they go into this pool, they get burned and then sort of reselected out of a pool, and nobody knows, where those coins came from. So you do have to anonymize. It's an extra step currently, but that step will go away with Lelantus Spark. So
is that the resurrection box?
Yes, the coin resurrection.
3 days later.
Right. Exactly. It's the Easter. It's the Easter coin selection. Right. But anyway, the UI is a little clunky compared to, let's say, the Monero wallet. Monero wallet looks really sleek right now.
Yeah.
So just saying.
Well, yeah, the Monero wallet was created by Diego Salazar, who UI is his middle name. And he also created the Epic Pay wallet, and it's another beautiful wallet. So
are we going to get Diego on the show?
Yeah, we are. But, Diego asked if we wait a few months because he is finalizing everything with Stack Wallet to work with everything. And he says, I'm so afraid of your reach that the last thing in the world I want to do is still be working on bugs or fixes and then have everybody come and be disappointed.
Okay,
says,
fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll give Diego the time that he needs to wrap that, get it all solid.
Recognizes he has one chance to make a first impression, and something about drinking through a fire hose. He gets that.
Totally. All right. So back to FIRO then. I will say this. So of course, on our platforms like Brighteon.com, we already support Monero and Epic Cash as tipping systems. We're going to, of course, expand that to FIRO and other coin projects that we like.
Yep.
And then I was talking to my devs last night, reminding them, hey, make sure you figure out how people can purchase from our stores using this ever expanding set of crypto coins. We are going to include FIRO in that set. So it's going to be Monero, Epic Cash, FIRO, and then whatever else comes next. So that's all going to happen.
I think that's going to be a game changer when you incorporate it into your shopping cart.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait because, I mean, who doesn't want to purchase things with privacy intact?
I just love the idea of my crypto being backed by food.
Yeah, exactly. You've seen our warehouse. You see the pallets and pallets of food that we have there packaged up.
I have.
I mean,
and I also saw your medical facility, because you walk through there and where you do your testing, it's like going through an ICU unit. It's like everything is
What are you talking about? You talking about one of the clean rooms for the liquid handling, or what?
Where you do all your testing and everything is like
the micro lab there.
The micro lab.
Yeah.
by ICU unit, I didn't mean there were little babies
like
in there,
patients or anything. No,
no
we're testing for salmonella and things like that. But yeah, it's a fun operation. It's people are shocked when they go into our warehouse and
huge.
And I was just showing comedian JP Sears. He was here in the studio recently, and Mickey Willis. I took them through the warehouse. They couldn't believe it. They're like, this is like the Indiana Jones warehouse from the first movie of all the artifacts here. But anyway, that's getting off topic. Getting back to FIRO.
Yes.
We're about use cases, right? So we want to show people better ways to use their coins and not just hodl coins.
Right.
I mean, hodling is only one dimensional. It's like, okay, and then what? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you ultimately hope to have some kind of value that it can be translated into something?
Well, that's what I love about his idea of, empowering people to create their own projects, their own, tokens, their own, because you'll have these huge companies that are going through, like you're doing, with being able to incent people to buy or give them rewards or things. I think you're going to be like the tip of a spear on a use case. Matter of fact, we should really do this. We should talk to Reuben and volunteer to be one of the first coins that's created on his system.
Well, why do you want to create a token? I mean, what would we do with a token other than just play around with it? I mean,
no, I'm actually thinking, instead of I'm thinking you.
Well, we're going to do a loyalty program.
Yeah,
type
that's
of thing,
what I'm saying.
sure.
A loyalty token that you could be like one of the first ones to do that.
I'm game.
With him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be totally cool. We can all follow along with that.
Do you think I could get my customers to download wallets and then withdraw reward tokens, or is that asking too much?
They have to. They have to. Ultimately, we all have to.
That's what I think. We got to get these skills nailed down.
There'll be a point in time where we don't have to, to access our crypto, put a 250 baud modem going, remember back in Web 1.0? It wasn't that easy. Right?
I remember that. Okay. All right. Let me bring in something else. So news hit recently, a split decision involving Ripple, XRP. And this decision was widely celebrated across the cryptocurrency space. The decision, as I understand it, is that Ripple's sales of its tokens to institutional investors will be considered a security, but Ripple's sales to individual people and also to its own employees and project people are not securities. This is a major court decision. It's not over yet. It could be, further litigated and so on, but this is being celebrated across the crypto space. So Todd, my question to you, if Ripple is not a security, then doesn't that speak well for pretty much all altcoins, or most?
I think it seems to speak really well. Yeah, I think shit coins get to go back to the original name altcoins, right?
And
meaning that they're all shit coins in the SEC's, point of view. Actually, that would be the Bitcoin maximalist point of view, right? But no, I think it should give everybody who is developing blockchain technology and crypto projects a real deep sigh of relief. I think that's the real big win, is it's going to unlock development again. Because until there's some clarity, it's like people are just a deer in headlights. Who's going to really invest money in these ecosystems?
Right. This does help provide some clarity. And by the way, coincidentally, it also means that when you sold me Epic Cash for gold, remember that trade that we did? I gave you gold coins and you gave me some Epic Cash. That was not a securities exchange, it turns out.
Oh, we're not going to prison?
It turns out not. I mean, not unless you go to jail for building that food forest in your backyard against HOA regulations. They might get you on that.
What food forest?
Oh, okay. Yeah, too bad you can't have Lelantus Spark wrap up your food forest and make it vanish.
Yeah. Don't tempt me.
You go back there and pick some avocados. You're like, where'd those come from? Nobody knows. It's all secret.
Oh, I hope everybody watches the video that we dropped today with Jim Gale regarding the food forest abundance. Man, what a great show that was.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to reverse plug it. If you haven't watched it yet, go back. If you need a jolt of energy or some caffeine, just watch Jim speak. What a great show.
Definitely a great show. And folks, you can see that all episodes you can watch at decentralize.tv. And also, by the way, I'll go ahead and mention this. We have a guest coming up who is about decentralizing Hollywood. So this is a film studio owner who has agreed to come on the show and talk about getting away from the big corporate, monstrous Hollywood studios that are pretty much just into pedophilia and Satanism at this point. And instead making films that are like wholesome, good films. And you can't do that in Hollywood. So, we're about decentralizing entertainment, decentralizing food, decentralizing medicine, all of it. It's not just talking about, crypto all day. It's a lot of things.
I mean, it's so diverse.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can really think about just any subject that's meaningful to our daily lives, and you can ask the challenging question, is it centralized in a way that, potentially could be harmful? If so, what alternatives are there? Is it worth exploring?
Yeah,
I think so.
And I called you about this. I was stopping into pawn shops around town. I went into a couple of pawn shops and I was like, hey, can I interview the pawn shop owner? Because I want to talk about decentralizing local economies and how people are trying to get cash right now. And, how does the pawn shop economy operate? It's kind of like local Monero. It's kind of like the pawn shop ecosystem of crypto in a sense, is like people buying and selling.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, kind of. But it turns out, I didn't even know this, but these pawn shops are mostly franchises of big national chains, and there's nobody there who will go on the record and talk about anything.
That's true.
Yeah, so the pawn shops are centralized under a net, which I'm like, oh my gosh, this just kind of defeats the purpose of pawn shops. I thought it was all decentralized. But when I was at one pawn shop, a couple of guys walked in and unloaded this I don't know, collection of what looked like stolen jewelry, by the way. It was like, oh man,
wow,
that doesn't look legit at all. So who knows what's going on?
Well, you know what? Speaking of decentralized, I was traveling through Orlando today, and I was going through one part was a seedy section, but I went through some other parts that weren't. And it just hit me literally on every corner, like manned or wool-manned in the center barrier is somebody holding up a, Jesus loves you on cardboard sign, I'm hungry, whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, it's so well organized. That's decentralized begging. I swear. I think these people are dumped off in from a van, and that's their thing. And then they have to be picked up, and they give their pimps, the money, and
Begging pimps.
and then
Really?
they get their hit for the evening. I don't know, but
Man,
it has to be that way, right? Just because it cannot be a coincidence that literally for like a mile, there's nothing but, homeless people that are begging when people have their cars stopped.
wow. Wow. Well, yeah, that's a whole different layer of the economy that we haven't really explored on this show, but maybe we should find some homeless person to come on. And no, I'm serious. I mean, maybe we just find like, tell us about the homeless economy, man.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
How do you eat? What do you do for first aid? That would actually be a really interesting show. But fortunately, here in Texas, we can just go to Austin and find all kinds of homeless people, and maybe make that happen. I don't know. Crazy idea, but we'll see. But let me change the subject here.
Yes.
Before it gets even crazier. I do want to say, for the record, remember how the Kraken exchange was giving me all kinds of trouble before?
Yes.
And how I've been banned on or frozen on Gemini and Robinhood also, and Coinbase before, and Kraken froze my account. Well, Kraken reached out and they apologized and they restored my account. And then I was able to provide additional documentation and get even higher levels with Kraken, where you can deposit more money. But so far, nothing from Gemini, by the way. I'm not sure that they even have a functioning customer service department at this point. But Kraken fixed the problems, and I'm even in touch with a Kraken rep now who was helping alleviate these issues. And this guy, he's going to come on as a guest on our show.
That's going to be so great. I can't wait. Can't wait to speak with him.
Yeah.
See, it's not the problem. It's how the problem's handled.
True.
Right.
Exactly.
And he just totally turned it around. Now you're a raving fan of Kraken, and
it's the only one that's working. But what I found out, Todd, and this is a warning for everybody listening, I found out how I accidentally flagged all the fraud algos. You know how I flagged them all? What?
I was going to say being older than 50.
Well, I'm sure that our age is probably part of it, because most people in crypto are younger than you and I. But it was a behavioral flag, which is that I bought crypto and then withdrew the crypto immediately. Apparently that flags the algos. So in other words, if you go on to, let's say, Gemini or Robinhood, let's say Robinhood, because you can buy all kinds of stocks and everything on Robinhood. You go into Robinhood and you buy a bunch of crypto and you just leave it there, they don't flag you. You buy it and take it off. Oh man, it's all frozen and shut down. Send us this, send us that. Yeah, exactly. Because that's what fraudsters do.
Yeah, they like their rehypothecation, don't they?
Well, they're happy to sell you something. They just don't want you to take custody of it.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us back to FIRO, right? So FIRO is not available for purchase on a lot of exchanges.
No.
Or any that I can tell. But the way to acquire FIRO, let me actually bring this up.
Perfect.
I just use simpleswap.io. And here you go, right here. So let's say you want some FIRO. You can just choose here that you want FIRO coin, FIRO, and then you send, in this case, 0.1 Bitcoins, and you're going to get 1,725 FIROs. And, no KYC required, nothing. There's also another one, it's called StealthX, I think.
StealthX. I've used Godex.io.
Oh, really?
They are great as well. They're fantastic.
Godex.io, let me bring that up.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, here's StealthEX right here, same kind of deal. You just do an exchange. It takes a few minutes, no KYC, no account required. You mentioned this one. What is it? Godex.io?
Godex.io.
Okay, cool. So Yeah, no limits, right? You can exchange without limits on these kinds of exchanges. And so that's how you can acquire a lot of altcoins, such as FIRO or whatever coins that we're talking about, or even Monero, right? This is a real simple way to get Monero once you have Bitcoin.
It really couldn't be easier using those.
Yeah, they're really easy. And I was surprised the exchange rates are actually better than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously these services, they make a couple of points, but it's not crazy.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's not like 10% or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, it's not like local Monero where, what did you say, $300?
Yeah, there was one seller offering Monero at pretty much double price if you don't want any KYC, like no questions asked.
Yeah.
You can get it, you just pay double. But you can also, in fact, the local Monero guy, he saw the interview that we did with him, and he said, hey, I really wish you would try cash in the mail because that's the best rate. And I said, look, I don't feel comfortable sending cash in the mail, but I know a lot of other people do that. But, look, I've got Kraken cranking now, so I'm buying Bitcoin on Kraken. Yeah. So I don't need to send cash in the mail. Yeah, I'm cracking on Kraken.
Yeah, and you can get Monero on Kraken.
Yeah, you can just buy Monero straight out.
Just straight up and
on Kraken. But anyway, I wanted to tell everybody, don't buy crypto and then immediately withdraw it. That will flag the fraud algos. I think what you could do is buy crypto on these platforms and maybe wait 72 hours.
Right.
Just like let it settle a little bit before you start taking it out, and take it out a little bit at a time.
Yeah, and I don't think these exchanges are at risk of going away within 72 hours. I mean, there is a 72-hour risk, but they're not going away.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they're going away either. I mean, FTX cleaned out the industry a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
The deleveraging event was major. In fact, you know what? I want to say this, and talking to Reuben at FIRO kind of reminded me of this, but I feel like the privacy digital crypto space is in its infancy. I feel like we're at the startup stage before the big, bull run, so to speak.
Me too.
It doesn't feel to me like this is really a mature industry. They're still trying to sort out a lot of the tech and fixing wallets and figuring out how these things work. But man, this is a great time to be ahead of the game on this, I think.
But I think, and Reuben touched on this, he also said we're pretty far along considering where we were, right? He said that during the interview. It's kind of like, a lot of this stuff is second hat now. So
true. Yeah, good point. But because privacy is so much harder to do than just a big public blockchain.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so Bitcoin is simple by today's standards of what FIRO is doing.
Correct. So the 3 or 4 or 5 different approaches to privacy, those are really well known now.
Yeah.
But Lelantus Spark, man, I am super excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. I in fact, I want to look at the math and see if it makes any sense. If we could look at the math ourselves, wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, wow. You're going to become a cryptologist. Or do you want me to say cryptologist?
I don't care. I don't care. Whatever you want to say. Let's do it again.
Give the whistle again.
Okay, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Back that up. Back up that junk in your trunk, baby. Back it up. No, that's a different show. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, what if we could wouldn't it be great to look at the math and try to actually get a grip on what's happening mathematically?
I think it would be great for you to look at.
Well,
I for the record, I did not ace the test, that you did. But what would that make you? A cryptographer or a cryptologist? I can't remember. I know that Diego has a cryptologist who he refers to all the time.
Is that right?
That. So I don't know. We'll have to ask him when he gets on.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it would mostly just make me confused, actually, if I try to look at the code and how is this working again? But the zero knowledge proofs, I think are really fascinating. And the fact that even small programmable devices, mobile phones and what have you, can carry out the computational load that's necessary to conduct these zero knowledge proofs, it's remarkable that here we stand at the horizon of the future of human civilization. We have a fiat currency that's collapsing. We have CBDCs that are trying to enslave humanity. And at the same time, we're at the dawn of this computational miracle.
Right.
That not only with the microprocessors that are so capable right now with very little consumption of power, but massive memory storage is available for blockchains, very inexpensive. And then these mostly guys coming in and figuring out very clever ways to hide information that can be claimed as being true by someone who has the right keys.
one day, just because this is the world today, Mike, and I'm just going to play by their rules. One day I will self-identify as a cryptologist.
Is that right?
Just because I say so. And you will be fined on this show if you correct me at all. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I don't want to correct you about anything, but what about isn't there people who study Bigfoot, isn't it like a zoocryptology or something? What's that term of people who study like odd creatures? Isn't there
doesn't it have something to do with a bonus hole? we
found the Bigfoot, and sad to say, it has a bonus hole. What's that term? Hold on. Cryptography? No, what the heck? Hold on.
You're only going to get this here, folks.
Biocryptography, biometric, cryptography, cryptozoology.
There you go.
Okay, hold on. I knew I heard this.
What the hell is that?
Cryptozoology. You could be a cryptozoologist, Todd. How about that? Here it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cryptozoology is people who search and study unknown, legendary, or so-called extinct animals like Bigfoot with bonus holes. There you go. That's cryptozoology. And I don't know how much math you need
probably not much.
To follow Bigfoot around.
Just a really bad camera.
But is it possible that Bigfoot is only not visible because it's using stealth addresses and ring signatures?
It very well could be.
It's been wrapped in a
ahead
FIRO.
of his time.
Yes. It's a Lelantus creature.
He needs to rebrand Big FIRO.
Man, how can people not think Bigfoot exists? Because there was one in every Star Wars movie, Chewbacca.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly. I mean,
Chewbacca
how else would they even film the film without Bigfoot playing the role of Chewbacca?
Chewbacca did say on air, though, he is bonus hole-less. He stood very firm.
Hey,
yes.
Did you ever notice that in the Star Wars movies, the early ones, there are no displays? There are no screens? Think about Star Wars, the first one.
Yeah,
There's not a screen, except maybe in the X-Wing fighter. There's kind of an old school. There are no screens anywhere. But you look around society today, we all have screens everywhere. Mobile phones, laptops.
Oh, good point.
Right? Where are all the screens?
Good point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, clearly.
That's a valid point. Nobody had their nose in their phones.
Well, yeah, they were fighting the empire, as we are.
We are.
But we are fighting the empire with our screens, it turns out, and with our private digital currency. All right. What?
Reuben,
yes?
sorry, we took that someplace.
Ruben's going to kill us, man. Reuben's going to be like, why are you guys getting so off topic?
Yeah, he's
supposed
like,
to be about FIRO.
Can you take the last 10 minutes and just Lelantus Spark it?
All right, let's get back to FIRO. We have to honor our guests, but you and I can get carried away with a certain amount of chocolate on my part. What are you on right now? I did too many cacao nibs.
You know what? I got back home and I made some amazing brisket 2 days ago.
Oh, really?
I just tore into it. So it's just pure brisket.
Okay,
right
brisket
now that I'm
powered.
working off of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. All right, so back to FIRO. So
Yes.
let's give a summary assessment of what we think about FIRO. You want to go first?
I am really, really intrigued about when he was talking about all of the assets share the same anonymity set. So I presume that's with Lelantus Spark.
Yes.
That's when he was talking about being able to create your own coins, and you wouldn't be put under a microscope because you only have 100 coins, and they're going to say, that's kind of strange. We know it's you, but man, being able to just share that same set with everybody, I think about that and I think, who wakes up in the morning and tries to solve that problem?
Right. People like Reuben.
So I'm really impressed with a humble person like Reuben that's solving these problems. And I really believe at his core, he does it for one reason only, which is he believes privacy is a human right.
Yes.
I think that's what drives him.
Can I add too that one of the other things I really like about the philosophy of FIRO under Reuben or with Reuben's help, and I know it's bigger than one person, like I said earlier, but what Reuben brings to the table is a sense of collaboration with other projects, specifically with Monero. And you and I, Todd, we've seen projects where the culture is that everything else sucks other than this project, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't think that's a winning strategy in this space. I love to be able to talk to other people on other projects and share ideas.
Yeah. I mean, because you just never know when you might learn something, Mike.
Right. And this is also, by the way, one of the things about so-called Bitcoin maxis. So there are a lot of good people in Bitcoin, don't get me wrong, and we're going to be interviewing a Bitcoin-related project person coming right up. But there are also these so-called Bitcoin maxis that they do smack of a kind of arrogance, that is, that nothing is a real crypto coin other than Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And
I think that side is just a cult.
You do?
Yeah.
A cryptozoology cult?
Yeah. I just don't think they have the ability to critically think, I think they're NPCs. They're in BTCs.
BTC NPCs, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, but I got to tell you, anytime we have somebody on the show about Bitcoin, I'm going to ask them, what about privacy? Where's the privacy solution for Bitcoin?
Right.
Because FIRO's figuring it out. Monero's got it. Epic and other projects that we're interviewing coming up, they've all figured out different solutions to privacy.
That's right. Yeah.
Bitcoin could be made private, but I guess there's just not enough consensus there to do it, or they don't want to do it.
Is it one of those too big to fail things that if they made the attempt that it might, I don't know, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
If it's just like it's numbers go up technology, you guys don't know anything. And, you're probably, who has anything to hide, Mike?
Or is it that too many wealthy institutions like BlackRock with the ETFs and so on are now involved in Bitcoin, and they want to play along with the government surveillance grid to turn Bitcoin into a surveillance coin, which it is already.
Which it is. Yeah. Already.
So they don't want privacy.
Whenever you have a company that literally is generating $20 billion Blockstream in revenues on an annual basis because of the surveillance, think about that. 20 billion bucks.
Hey,
what's that mean? They're selling your transaction information to interested third parties.
Right. And if it's all privacy coins, they don't have access to that information.
That's why they hate us.
I asked Kraken this question. I said, I said, look, okay, suppose I buy Bitcoin on your platform. How do I know it's not dirty Bitcoin?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What did they say?
They said they use chain analysis, and they check the Bitcoins before they sell them to their customers. Yeah. So there's actually a check, like a sanitation check on the Bitcoins before they sell them to customers.
But do they not do that sanitation check while you are sending it before they actually accept it and transact it?
No, they do it when you send also, so they run the Chainalysis check on the Bitcoin that you send them
right away.
Right away. And if they don't like, if your Bitcoin is dirty Bitcoin, they reject it.
Interesting.
Yes.
I wonder what percentage of Bitcoin is rejected then.
Well, I don't know, but we're going to have my contact on the show, so we'll ask them. Yeah.
That'd be fascinating.
That would be fascinating. But I'm also wondering, how many steps back or hops on the blockchain surely with Chainalysis, you could get different numbers if you look back, more hops on the blockchain.
6 hops.
Right. Enough hops and you get the whole freaking chain. But who sets the parameters? How dirty is clean?
Didn't someone report at some point in time that 50% of all Bitcoin out there have history with the black, what was it? The Silk Road?
Silk Road. Well, perhaps that might have been true at one time, but now there's so many more coins being mined.
But then the question is, were those cleaned somehow? I don't know.
That's I don't know.
Ignorant on my part.
No, but when I use FIRO or Monero, I don't have to worry about this.
No.
I don't have to think about where did this dirty, contaminated coin come from? You know what I mean?
No.
It's just like all the coins are all clean all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
private crypto, man. That's going to be the future.
I think so. I'm convinced.
It has to be. But it has to be out of the network, because the network is never going to embrace private crypto.
You mean traditional finance network? Is that?
Yeah.
TradFi.
Yeah.
Just start saying TradFi.
TradFi. Okay, the Druid Babylonian Bastards Network. How about that?
Yeah.
Those bankster bitches. It's
right.
Those people.
Right.
But yeah, no, the network, which unfortunately is the off and on ramp, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's why ultimately we hope we can all figure an elegant way to be able to get out of our private crypto into something that, is accepted, that, you can off ramp.
Well, right. Use cases, just more use cases for it. And
more use cases.
We're all about that. Frankly,
more
I think
people accepting them. Yeah,
exactly. The more this show succeeds, I think the more we're going to see merchants accepting privacy.
I would never want to convert my crypto to fiat if I knew everywhere I went they accepted my crypto.
Exactly. Why would you ever go back to fiat?
It's like gross.
No, I completely agree with you. It's crazy. I do not intend to ever transition crypto back into fiat ever.
That's a big, bold statement. That's very, very cool.
Well, especially since I've transferred now, at least I'm in the process of transferring my own savings, my after-tax savings. Right. I'm moving it into gold and silver and crypto. Right? Yes. I've said that publicly.
Private crypto.
And then I ran into all these problems in crypto because of the exchanges are like, how dare you buy crypto here and take it off platform, right? So,
but with the introduction of food forest abundance, now we have a fourth leg to the stool, right? Which it's gold, silver, crypto, and food.
Yeah.
You can invest in your own food forest that you can have custody of, and it will continue to give you energy moving forward, because food is energy. So sustenance. You're investing in your own future sustenance. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. So let's not forget food.
Hey, can I, good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I think that's really important. I want to mention something too. As a disclosure, I forgot to mention, I do hold some FIRO, and I hold some of every privacy coin, by the way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, do you hold any FIRO? Because we need to disclaim this.
Yeah, I have not. I do not hold FIRO. I have not done the Mike Adams setting up 18 different wallets on 30 different computers. So I'm still wholly into Epic Cash, and but all of these projects I find very, very interesting, and I fully intend to be able to divest some of my holdings to be able to get into these projects because they impress me greatly.
Well, I think it's just awesome to use all these different coins and see how they work and see the like the transfer speeds, and also look at the wallets and see how they handle seed phrases differently. For example, the Monero wallet does the best job with the seed phrases. Just makes it easy for you to type it back in and confirm it, things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, Monero wallet's very elegant. It's even got built-in mining right in the wallet, which is not something I've seen elsewhere. So
you're mining Monero?
No, I mean not. I turn on mining to see if it would work, and then you do the math, and you're like, oh, I could lose this much money every day on electricity bills. Like, no, thanks. I'm not interested in that. Yeah, if you pay for electricity, you will lose money mining Monero.
Okay.
As far as I can tell. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Unless you just have free power from somewhere, forget it.
Right.
But I got to try it. I want to see how it works,
Good.
Just like I mined a couple of Epic Cash coins.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
You are the breaker with a capital B. You try to break everything. You're really good at it.
Oh man. Well,
you beat things up.
Yeah, well, that's part of my job here on the show, is to do that.
It is.
And also, by the way, for the next show, I do have all these. I bought a bunch of different types of steel seed phrase storage devices. I'm going to bring them and have them on set here. So that'll
be great.
You've seen these where like you punch letters into the steel. It probably takes an hour, a lot of hard work to put your seed phrase in there. Yeah.
I remember getting my bifodal, and I was so excited to be able to slide all of the things in. And then I'm like,
the little letters.
Yeah, the little letters. I'm like, oh, I paid what? A couple $100 for this, and it only holds one seed phrase.
Yeah, right. And you notice how all those seed phrase storage devices, they're made for younger people with much smaller fingers than what you and I have.
Who can see?
Yeah,
they have very 20/20 vision.
Great working eyes, little tiny fingers too.
Right.
I'm like,
tell me which show that you're gonna do your show and tell, because I'll go bring my Dremel and my I have some fresh plates.
The ones that we're gonna film tomorrow. I'm gonna bring it.
I'll have my Dremel and I'll have my fresh plates to be able to show everybody.
Okay.
I won't hold the ones that I have engraved my seed words on.
Yeah.
But you'll get the idea.
Very cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. Well, I have a laser. It's like a 3D printer, but it's actually an etching laser setup.
Oh, cool.
And I programmed that to cut holes in the polyethylene tops for the hydroponic grow bins that we have.
Yeah.
So I have it programmed to burn those holes with a pretty high powered laser. So what I can do is I can just take a piece of steel and I can use that laser program. I forgot the name of it, but you just type in text and I can actually burn seed phrases into that piece of steel using that laser.
Does that machine have memory of what you just typed in?
No, you don't have to save the file. No, and it's not online. It's an offline disconnected machine.
It's good to ask those questions.
No, it's
though,
good.
Right?
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you just have to be sure not to look at it because you'll go blind, obviously, because the laser. If you're etching letters into steel, you don't want to be looking at that. Yeah.
No, you don't.
So you have to leave the room, basically.
Hey, on your ranch, are you a welder too? You do everything else.
Have
you figured out how to weld?
I have done some welding, but the reason I don't routinely weld is because it exposes you to a lot of toxic metals. In the welding rods, they contain a lot of cadmium.
Okay.
And so, as you know, I'm a food scientist, and so
yes, you are.
I'm very particular about cadmium, arsenic, and mercury. And then when I read that a lot of welders have cadmium poisoning, I said I'm not going to do a lot of welding.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I discovered JB Weld, which is the epoxy.
I have a question. Yeah. Not related. Sorry, Reuben. Not related, but I think
Reuben's really going to kill us for this because we're way off topic.
But so when I go into the grocery store and I get the organic, vegetables or whatever, I started thinking the other day, the people that run the show, that's all centralized probably. Are they just getting one over on us? How easy would it be just to put a stamp on it that says it's organic and it's not? Or do you trust the food system?
Oh man. Well, being that I'm in the food system and that almost everything we do is certified organic and that we have a food lab, I absolutely do not trust the organic certifications from a lot of places, especially from China, it turns out. So organic certification is pretty easy to counterfeit out of certain countries, like China, where there's a lot of counterfeiting anyway.
Yep.
But in the United States, it's more difficult because the organic certifiers, they do on-site inspections and audits, and they'll do accounting audits. So for example, if I sell, let's say, 1 million pounds of organic quinoa in a year, then the auditor, and I meet with our auditor that does it at my facility. I meet with him about once a year. He will say, show me the invoices where you purchased 1 million pounds of organic quinoa. And if you can't show that you bought what you sold, then you're going to get your cert yanked. Is the way that works, right? But what's fascinating to me, it's worth mentioning, is the USDA, they do not test any organic products for heavy metals or even for pesticides. Testing is not part of the certification process. Yeah. You think it's tested? No, it's not. It's never tested.
You know it's never going to touch my food forest?
What?
Pesticides.
Yeah, there you go.
You know.
You don't like atrazine, the gender bender chemical? It'll give you a bonus hole. It's the second most popular herbicide in America.
I don't know if people are going to come to this show for the tech or the comedy, but that was good.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's atrazine.
Wow.
Yeah, RFK Jr. was talking about it the other day. He's like, we got to get rid of this. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all for it.
Okay. In the meantime, FIRO.
Let's talk satellites.
We do need to give credit to our sponsor. Okay, let's do that. But I got to give my summary of FIRO too before we close this thing out.
Please.
Let me give credit to the Satellite Phone Store for sponsoring this show. Thank you for your sponsorship. The Satellite Phone Store, of course, offers, in essence, sort of decentralized communication, but it's a backup plan, doesn't use the cell towers, doesn't use AT&T. It does use satellites, obviously. That's the way it works. But it doesn't give up your location, and it doesn't use the identity of your cell phone account, right, to do this. So you have more privacy using satellite phones, and it works everywhere on planet Earth, even the oceans and deserts and so on. And so there are Iridium phones available right now at sat123.com. The Inmarsat phones are currently out of stock. Let me see. Let me bring these up. Hold on. So here are the Iridium phones. Oh, low inventory. They're warning on these now. Gosh, man, it's hard to keep these in stock.
Popularity of the show.
Yeah, maybe. These are sold out. These are the Inmarsat phones. They're sold out. Iridium is available now, but limited supply. And then these Bivy sticks are the two-way satellite text messaging devices that talk to the satellites. You can send and receive text. You use your own mobile phone to compose and to read your messages, but it uses a satellite network to send. Those are really handy. I won't travel without them. All right, so beready123.com and sat123.com is where you find out details about all that. Now for my own, you got any comments on that, Todd?
No, I just said excellent.
You're an in-house cryptozoology expert now?
Yes.
Yeah. Aside from Bigfoot, what are the other creatures that might exist? What's it called in Mexico? The chupacabra or something, or chuca? What's the demon creature that's reported in Mexico? Chupacabra?
Chupacabra?
Chupacabra. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay.
Chupa. Let's just call it
yeah,
Chupa.
They come in and take you in the middle of the night.
Maybe we can get Chupa on as a guest.
Get Chupa. All right, here's my take on FIRO. So yeah, I think FIRO is about to leapfrog the other projects in the privacy crypto space with its tech, but we got to see how that rolls out. But that's called Lelantus Spark, which is, as I understand it, pretty cool tech. I haven't seen the math yet, but I hope to actually take a look at it. I might need some assistance with that process. FIRO's current wallets are a little dated. They need to be upgraded, better UIs and so on. I'm sure that'll happen with Lelantus Spark. FIRO's trading volume seems pretty healthy to me. There's a lot of activity in it. Its price seems, again, it's only about 1% of the price of Monero, which
do we know what the market? Do we know what the market cap of FIRO is?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes. We can look that up. Give me a second. Let me bring up CoinMarketCap.
Yep.
And see. Yeah, good question. Hold on. Market cap, $22 million.
Oh, interesting.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
I'm shocked.
Okay. I am too.
Yeah. I would think that, but again, the price is not very high, you know?
No, it's not.
Because they haven't been in, marketing mode. But here it is. It looks like it sparked at one point. It spiked. This is the FTX crash, like took out everybody, 90%. And so FIRO was, over $3 before with the FTX collapse, taking down everything. But FIRO's been hanging out here, but it's been rising for the last, I don't know, month or so.
Okay.
Looks like kind of steadily building. I don't know. You know what we should do, Todd, is we should see like what effect this show has on some of these projects. Right. We should.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
Like the day after this launches, see if it's having any impact at all.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. We should track it.
Okay.
Just kind of see how it's doing. But just for the audience, we're not here telling you to buy this or to speculate or anything like that. We're not your financial advisor. Do whatever you think is right for you. I'm just saying I can't believe it's this low price given the tech. But maybe in 2024, Reuben and the team will go into more like publicity mode or something.
Yeah. Well, the other thing with these microcaps, Mike, is that one BTC can go into FIRO and then all of a sudden that dollar becomes, $2 pretty quick. And it looks like it just spiked. It doesn't take much. But that is the issue with these smaller privacy coins, is there just isn't a lot of liquidity in them. So price is affected up and down. Doesn't take much to sell for it to go down. But you know what? It is also a gift if you are bullish on private money long term.
But the volume of this, what is it? $751,000 a day?
That's hard for me to believe. Unless there's
that sounds pretty high.
Unless there's a bot wash trading. There
might be market making bots that are in between trades, things like that. Yeah.
But what I know about those too that boggles my mind is those aren't free.
Exactly. So that's not free.
That's where when it's a community project, I just continue to wonder, well, where the hell does everybody get all the money to be able to have the money market makers and to fund those, because you have to fund.
I don't know. Good question.
So yeah, a lot of this stuff. I mean, look, we're on this journey together, and there's a ton we don't understand. But if anybody out there wants to come on this show and educate us a little on market making and proper analysis of these coins and being able to, do we know the right questions to ask or the hard questions to ask, or in analyzing the tokenomics of any private crypto or any coin altogether, right?
Well, I'm just glad that this is not a market analysis show, because how could you make sense of the movements of the market? I mean, and we've all seen shows where people do a technical analysis. They're like, this trough and this peak and this double shoulder or whatever, and then therefore it's going to mean that this is going to happen.
Right.
I got to tell you, I'm not convinced that there's any predictive value in analyzing the past.
I think it's kabuki theater, tea leaf reading.
That's why we focus on just use cases. Like,
right.
let's find ways to make this whole ecosystem more valuable.
Yeah.
And that's use cases. So That's my market analysis. Find ways to use it, and it probably becomes more valuable. Like, that's it.
Consider that.
Yeah,
everyone.
I mean, I don't know how these people say, oh, because it. Essentially, a lot of the technical analysis is like, if it goes up this much, it's going to go up much more. If it goes down this much, it's going to go down much more. I'm like, okay, so.
Oh my gosh.
So what?
It did a triple gainer in 24 hours, and I can see the bored out carburetor with the dual quadribustion system move coming. I can make it up like the best of them.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think the fundamentals are that more people are going to be interested in private digital money.
Yes.
Over time. And especially as there's more crisis in the banking system and fiat currency becomes less and less valuable and practical, I think more people are going to seek out money that works, money that's honest. And frankly, the honest money is in this space. I mean, I consider blockchain and crypto at this point to be honest money because nobody can fudge with the blockchain.
That's right.
The ledger. You can't cheat the ledger.
No.
So honest money. Plus, I still have gold and silver.
Right.
Just in case everything goes bad.
Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
I think all of them are important, and we need food. Okay.
Final comment. You know, it was funny. I had a younger guy comment on one of our previous shows. He's like, yeah, I love your show, but aren't you guys a little old to be doing crypto? All of us are in our 20s. And I'm like, and you're all broke. And we're the guys who actually have the money that crypto should be caring about. So
true.
If crypto is to succeed, it's got to attract people who have the money, who are people our age and older, who are more closer to retirement. They've worked their whole lives. They have funds, and they want to know how to protect those funds. You know, it's not every 20-year-old that's got $5 to his name and can't even pay Uber Eats, a tip.
But I have a sneaky suspicion there's a couple of young guys out there that can launch their own Beavis and Butthead crypto show, and I'll watch it. I think it'd be great. No, look, they say crypto is for everyone. We say that, and so I wish, and I mean this, I wish there was a couple of people that were 80 years old that had a show and they were riffing back and forth and talking about it. I would love to see a couple of young women that have their own show. I'd love to see, we all get smarter together. We are just so early in this game on a 100-yard football field. We're at about the 4-yard line and we've got 96 yards to go. So much learning to do, so many plays to be called. Yeah, right.
True.
And so we're still early. All of us are OGs. Give us 10 more years and we'll be like, we won't even believe that we were ever as naive as we are today. So
yeah, someday, like today's young people are going to look back at us and joke about how we were pounding seed phrases into metal with hammers. They're like, what the heck? That's old school, man. Stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. But these young people can also go out and invent the future. That wouldn't suck either. So you guys are smart. Go figure it out.
As long as it's a future of freedom, I'm all in.
Yeah, make our lives easier.
Yeah.
Make it about freedom, decentralized freedom, and we'll have you on the show.
Sounds good. All right. Well, that was good, Todd. So let me just give out the website again, FIRO.org. That's FIRO.org if you want to learn more about FIRO. And I kind of think we owe it to Reuben to have him back on the show since we talked about him so much. We gotta schedule that out. But we're already booked all the way through August. Did you know that? We like the next scheduled opening for this show is September. We may have to, Todd, increase the number of days that we film.
Let's do. I'm game. I'm down.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
There's too many great guests out there. Let's not be selfish.
Okay.
We can both do it. Let's go for it.
I might have to sacrifice some of my other show times and just do this show more.
That would suck.
No, that's worth it. This show is the most fun show to do.
All right.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, and we get to talk about, Bigfoot bonus holes. Dude, where else can you do that? Only on this show. All right.
Oh.
So the website, folks, is decentralize.tv, and join our Telegram group, which is also called Decentralize TV. And there you can click on the chat group. You can chat with us. And hey, Todd, do you have people DMing you and trying to get you to invest in their projects? I keep getting hit up by people on Telegram that want me to plug or fund their projects now.
Yeah, I swipe left. Swipe left.
Okay.
I have no patience for those people. It's I don't respond to DMs barely at all, unless I know you.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Because there's so many freaking scammers out there.
Yeah,
just
so true.
So many scammers.
All right,
and look, our channel, we have a little bit of work to do in our Telegram channel too. We want to be able to get some bots in there, and we want to be able to make sure that we have some mods in there that continually remind you that watch out for scammers, beware of scammers. So we're working on that, but man, I think we're pretty busy, Mike.
Yeah.
So hang in there with us, everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your suggestions and for your participation. And feel free to repost this show on other platforms as well. And just give us a link back to decentralize.tv. I'm Mike Adams, and this has been Todd Pittner, our co-host here. And I'm the founder of Brighteon.com also. So feel free to post your own videos, your own analysis on Brighteon.com. And thank you for watching today, everybody. Take care.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Todd.